and St. Elizabeth Ann Seton and whoever else has the misfortune of watching this video. I wanted to talk today about something that seems really apparent here, and it's how we have gone from beautiful, blue sky, sunny, everyone playing sports, everyone going outside, everyone running their dog, everyone having a good time, everyone like, oh my gosh, we have light out till 10 o'clock at night, and we've gone to this kind of cloudy, gray, dull, dreary, somewhat rainy sense. And you can just look at the ground. It is gross. It's like the winter mold. It's the north-facing stuff, and it's, you know, we've gone from this beautiful celebration of Easter, and this beautiful sense of sunlight and warmth, and gladness and beauty, and where we fall back into this, and isn't this like a really common example of what happens to us during Easter? I mean, it's been a week since we celebrated Easter and the joy of the resurrection, and yet here we are, and we've fallen back again into kind of Lenten spirit. You can hear it's loud here. There's cars going by, and this is just like the noise of life. You know, we've taken time during Holy Week. Maybe we spent more time in prayer, and all throughout Lent, you know, is this time of spiritual fitness. You know, we're giving things up, and we're preparing ourselves. We're uniting ourselves through our sacrifice of meat, reminding ourselves of Christ's suffering, and then we get to Easter, and it's a celebration, it's joy, and then the next day it's back to the same old grind, the same old routine. You know, there's this noise of life that gets us down. We got, you know, for those of you who have kids, you got your kids pulling at you. You have that daily battle of trying to get them to do the things they need to do. You have that noise of life. You have the noise of life in relationships where you're wondering if that person cares enough about you. You're wondering if the relationship's going to go well. Is it going to continue? Can it work through your problems? You've got the strain of friendships, the noise of friendships where, you know, someone betrays you, or they gossip about you, or they don't value you or honor you, or they like miss your birthday, and the basic things like that. You know, and the physical limitations that we have, and we're brought down again after Easter, and we kind of quickly forget. You know, we fall back and allow the noise to distract us, and we lose sight of that Easter celebration, because Easter continues, and every Sunday is a continuation of Easter. Every Sunday is a celebration of the resurrection. And we need to be people who are Easter people. That's what the Pope says. He says we don't need to be Lenten people who are down and dreary, kind of like wintry people, you know, cooped up and, you know, stuck inside, so to speak. We need to be people who are Easter people, who are out, who are joyful, because the cross is pointless without the resurrection. You know, we're not people to just be Christians and Catholics to be people who are suffering and distracted by the noise, but people who are to go out and to bring that joy to the world. And it's just like spring, you know, there's this time of this gestation for all the plants, and you know, even like the animals, a lot of them could be hibernating, and then in the springtime we bloom. We need to flower. We need to be you know, people who are flowering, people who are blooming, people in the springtime who during this period of waiting are now able to go out and spread that message, spread that good news, and honoring the resurrection, and to shed those things that hold us back, those things we may have given up or done during Lent to help us do that. You know, like for myself, I gave up, one of the things I did during Lent was I didn't listen to any music in my car. And after a while, I gotta tell you, it became very kind of unjoyful. And so it had this perfect sort of sense of teaching me, you know, this is a time for sorrow perhaps, but it's going to lead to a time of intense joy. Now I have music in my car and I'm singing along. I was listening to Les Mis and singing with Jean Valjean. And this great sense of joy that comes with the resurrection. And, you know, it needs to be this transformation. And we can look at, like, Peter in the readings this week. Peter, who having denied Jesus 3 times during the night before his passion, or the start of his passion, really, becoming a man who's going on the temple preaching, and everyone is praising. There's been miracles occurring, and there's other people who are now like, Peter, can't talk about this guy Jesus anymore, we don't want you inciting anything. They can't do anything. They call him in, they say, you gotta stop, and he says, no. How can I deny how can I deny what I've seen? How can I pretend like that hasn't happened? You know, how can I act as if the resurrection hasn't happened? How can I be a person of denial? How can I be a person of you know, of gloom, a winter person, so to speak, and not be a springtime, summer person? And this is another thing we have, the people who would have been baptized at Easter Vigil, there's this great experience where they're clothed in white, like they're washed clean with the blood of the Lamb. And then all through, after Easter Vigil, and into the Easter season, that first week they would continue to wear their white baptismal garment. A continuation of showing them that Easter has continued. It's the sense of the resurrection isn't something that happens once and then we forget about it for a year. This is the way that we're supposed to live our lives daily. All of our daily sufferings, all of those things. The person at work who gets you down, and that person at school who brings you down, and that person at home who's bringing you down, or any of those sufferings, your own physical sufferings, be they through sickness or injury. All of these are to be transformed. All of these things are to be, things that bring us new life and unite us more closely to the cross, but then ultimately to the resurrection. And so, we're letting go of all these things, our greed, our selfishness, our lust or promiscuity, our sense of like gossip or lying or wrath. We're letting go of all of those things, and we're being transformed. And it's like going from the bare bones church of, on Good Friday. There's nothing in the church on Good Friday, basically. It's completely bare. And it's just it's just really solemn, and it's, it's an undecorated building that lets us say, this is a time of great sadness. But it's going to lead to a time of great joy. Just as Lent, that spiritual fitness we're kind of going through leads us to that greater sense of joy, like with my music, or with your fast. People black fast, I mean, what greater sense of, physical malnourishment. You do a black fast, you give up meat, you give up dairy products, you give up like animal products in general, you give up wine, and so you give all these things up, and then of course Easter is going to seem like one of the most joyful things because you can finally feast again. I mean, you get to have all those things, all those wonderful things in life that help make it special, and with family and friends, and that's how Easter is. And we get together, there's lilies everywhere in the church, there's color everywhere, we sing the Alleluia, there's the Gloria, and it's this great sense of celebration. We get the Easter Vigil, which is like the high vigil of the year, and too often we then fall back into the gloom, we fall back into the noise, we fall back into the dreary kind of drab, and we forget that our lives are to be resurrected lives, that we are to be people uniting ourselves to that sort of sense. And let us not go back. May we see that transformation that Christ has on the world, that transforming effect, and be like Peter who goes out, or be like those, the early people in the RCIA who would continue to wear their white robe, being made clean by Christ, having nothing holding them back, and willing to spread that sense of joy that comes from knowing Jesus and knowing God, and that ultimate fulfillment that comes from that. So may we be those types of people. And I just want to leave you with this. In Psalm 150, it talks about raising the, not raising, but basically like singing and dancing for joy, playing the lute, playing the lyre, playing the timbrel, playing the harp, sounding the tambourine before the Lord, playing all these things, like a life of joy. And then in 2 Samuel chapter 6, you have David, he dances with all of his might before the Ark of the Covenant, the presence of God. He dances with all of his might. May we be people who dance with all of our might for the Lord. I mean, I don't necessarily particularly like dancing, but may we be people like that, who dance before the Lord, who understand that sense of joy and that sense of mission and purpose, and be people who are willing to live that, and be people who allow ourselves in our regular lives for those things that do weigh on us, those great things, may we bring them, unite them to the cross, but then ultimately be led to the resurrection